Welcome back. Like we were discussing, a lot of non-index numbers coming out today. One important number would be Bank of India, not only because it's an important PSU bank, but because it's of course the most obvious candidate for coming out of PCA. Last month was very good, and after that we have seen some kind of correction on the stock. But Abhishek will tell us what to expect from the numbers.
Well, Anuj, to begin with, analysts for the fourth time in last 5 quarters are expecting a net loss for the bank. Now, slippages can be on the upside given the fact that analysts on street are working with 4,500 crores. Anything below 4,000 crores will be positive. Last quarter, it was at 3,800 crores. The asset quality may deteriorate owing to the fact that slippages are higher. And as you mentioned, the bank is under PCA. So if at all, they make provisions like Bank of Maharashtra and bring down their net NPA ratio to below 6%, the provisions can remain elevated. Improvement in net interest margin will be positive. Last quarter, it was at 2.27%, and the fall in bond yields that we saw in Q3 should actually aid in treasury income. Otherwise, the business of the bank, that is deposit plus advances, are expected to shrink on a YOY basis. So our polls suggest NII growth of 19%, while net loss could come in at 784 crore versus 2,341 crore YOY. Back to you.
Okay, the important part over here would be whether, the losses, whether the net NPA falls below 6% and therefore paves the way. It looks imminent that, if Bank of Maharashtra could post such a sharp fall in its net NPA, Bank of India will also be able to do that. Okay, with that, let's shift to some analysis of the whole host of news and numbers that has come over the weekend. Mr. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com joins us now. Good morning, sir. Thanks much. Well, first up, how should one approach Z from, the lines we are getting from the con call is not anything new compared to what we already know. They're reiterating most of those lines. So what is the approach? Do you think people who have pledged shares will keep their word?
See, Lata, even if we have the reiteration of whatever the information which we have in the public domain, I think they are enough. Because I quickly go on 2-3 things. That one, that the lenders have agreed not to exercise the invocation of the pledged shares and selling them in the market, maybe for next 3 months till April 2019, number one. Number two, the statement of the management in saying that the progress on sale of the 50% stake in Z Entertainment is happening on a positive note. Still, there is seen to be value, and they are very much hopeful of identifying the buyer maybe by April 2019, number two. Number three, if you really see the situation going forward, because everything now is looming large on the G Enterprise stake sale, G Entertainment stake sales, and because I don't think that people are too much concerned for the Dish TV and SL Propec, because I don't think that SL Propec is in any way connected. Even if you go by the chairman's statement, he has not inducted or made any reference of SL Propec, though he has said for the Dish TV of the acquisition of Videocon D2H. So I think that now everyone will be looking only on the share price of Z Entertainment, being a nifty stock. That will be more crucial. But reiteration can only be now need to be get from the lenders whether they have agreed in fact whatever management have said, whether those statements are right or not. But presuming that Z being a responsible group and such a big stake being involved, probably they will not lie anything on the communication which they must have held with the lenders. But one thing is, definitely comes to the mind that even in case of the mutual fund, I think probably the shadow or the effect of that will be seen going forward. The kind of lending which we have seen is probably on the lines of the wholesale banking being done by PSU banks is seen by the mutual funds also. How can Birla Sun Life lend about closer to 3,000 crore, HDFC about 1,000 crore, ICICI Pru about 1,000 crore to the group, because they have to be little vigilant. They just can't play on the valuations of the company for lending for their unrelated business. So overall, I think that if I confine myself only for the Z Entertainment, as I've said, probably things may not be seen to be too vulnerable. Maybe some recovery may be seen because of the short covering technical nature. And if the pledge share doesn't come for selling in the market, that will be seen quite positive.
Hit the nail on the head, Mr. Tulsian. Perhaps, in bull market, everyone makes a mistake, and that's what even the funds
did. We celebrated that 20,000 crore, 16,000 crore is coming into the mutual funds. Yes. We never realized that the bandwidth to do due diligence perhaps was not built up in that period.
Exactly. But anyway, let's see. Mr. Tulsian, good morning. Thoughts on Larsen and Toubro, because it's a stock which has underperformed a lot, perhaps has shorts as well. Do you reckon on this stellar performance, though there was a bit of a issue with the infra margins, there could be some kind of outperformance from the stock?
See, Anuj, I think this underperformance has happened exactly, just ahead of the results and made the stock to correct below 1300. So all the negatives seen having factored in, and definitely the Q3 numbers are seen to be positive. And more, I'm in fact maybe infra margin is seen bit down by about 50 basis points, but I'm more concerned on their execution capability and the order inflow. And going forward, I don't think that there should be any kind of disappointment to be seen on that front. And if the share would have been ruling at about maybe 1375, 1400, post seeing these numbers, probably I would have said that you can have the neutral view. But share now ruling at about maybe 1285 or sub 1300, I think definitely leaves room on the room for appreciation or maybe for the prospective buyer, considering the Q3 numbers, which are seen to be overall good.
Okay, overall good numbers. Mr. Tulsian, good morning. What should the approach to Maruti be, not just for people perhaps who don't have the stock, but even for long-term investors who've kept the faith so far?
See, Sonia, I don't think that, because if you really see the situation on Maruti, practically every mutual fund, every PMS is holding the stock in their portfolio, and rightly so. And I've said that probably the January sales numbers, which should be out on Friday, maybe by 10 o'clock, and we'll get to know those numbers. I think that is the last climax for the pessimism on the stock, because I don't think that things will really be bad for the sales performance for going forward from February onwards, because of the introduction of new models. And in fact, the price increase which has happened, and if you come on the guidance of the Maruti, which again one can rely on, the 8% growth which they are expecting in calendar F19 or maybe FY20, when the overall pessimism is seen there, that there is no growth to be seen for the PV segments, and if Maruti is seen giving a guidance of about 8%, I think that's seen quite significant. And if you really take the situation, yes, on Q3, I agree that there has been disappointment on 2-3 fronts, raw material and employee costs, but maybe situations seem to be bottoming out. The overreaction was seen happened on the stock yesterday, day before, and maybe by Friday, this Friday, once you see the January sales numbers, stock price should bottom out. And I don't think that all the mutual fund and PMS holders, or maybe other investors, who are HNI's category, they will be so disappointed to see them liquidating, because the more you liquidate, more the destruction will happen. So I don't think that disappointment is seen to be from these investors, and this continues to remain a quality portfolio stock from a long-term point of view. So my caution is only till Friday. By then the price should bottom out and will again start rising from there.
Okay. Finally, Mr. Tulsian, bunch of smaller stocks which you may have taken an interest. Saregama numbers looked good. Bansali engineering did not look all that good. Nilkamal looked quite terrible. Anything, sir, in the mid and small cap that we should take note of?
See, again, Lata, because of this 26 January holiday, you don't have much board meetings, 17 and 27 Sunday. But yes, 3-4 results which have seen really disappointment is, you are right, that, maybe Group Finance, Foseco, Nilkamal, they've really disappointed. But I'm impressed with the Saregama, and one has to read the numbers before taking their stock appreciation rights, and the numbers are really seen to be quite good. So there have been very limited numbers, maybe these 4 or 5 companies which I've said. And I don't think that you have much of the excitement seen from any of the mid and small cap numbers. So I think the result season will really be quite interesting for this week, because next 5 days you have interesting results lined up, and this whole week is also seen, loaded with the events like economic survey, GST collection figure, interim budget, and all sort of things.
Okay. Mr. Tulsian, today we have Escorts that comes out with its numbers. I mean, you've tracked this stock very well. Numbers are expected to be good. But if the numbers deliver, then would you, advise follow-on buying here?
See, Sonia, I won't be surprised to see the stock correcting in spite of expecting good numbers from the company, because there has been 33% growth in the quarter on the tractor sales. Their railway and construction equipment both are seen to be doing quite well, and in fact in the railway segments I am seeing the margin expansions happening. Maybe in construction equipment segments they have the volume expansion, but in railway segments definitely the margin expansion is seen, and overall the numbers for this quarter for the tractors also has seen to be good, and I don't think that share price is seen to be too demanding or too stretched. So overall I think that post numbers also it should move up, but it's very difficult, because sometimes the technical positions see the profit booking which may see the corrections happening in the near term for the couple of days, but then thereafter again things will start. But the only caution, which I have in fact said when the December numbers came in, that January is seen to be the lowest tractor sales month for any company, whether it is for M&M or for Escort. So that may be just a caution, that if any kind of disappointment will be seen from the results today, then that will get stretched maybe till Friday or Saturday till we see the January sales numbers out. But otherwise, I'm not very what you call apprehensive on the pessimism to be seen on the share price post Q3 numbers.
Okay, and just a word, sir, you mentioned Griha in passing. How do you think the stock will react?
See, Lata, though Griha doesn't have its own price discovery power now, but if you see the contraction in their net interest margin, or maybe the spread and the cost to income ratio having gone up, so I think that those things are seen to be negative, and I don't know, because generally once the merger has been announced with the Bandhan Bank, with the swap ratio having announced, that everything will move up in tandem with the Bandhan share price, and Bandhan we expect that it has already bottomed out. But just for academic analysis purposes, I've said that the Griha numbers have seemed to be big disappointment on the operational front. But it should not have much reflection on the share price. And generally, whenever this company changes hands, you see some kind of what you call the provisionings, or the cleaning of the book starts happening. So I'm keeping cautious view on the Griha numbers for March quarter as well, which generally seem to be the best quarter for the company in all 4 quarters.
Okay, finally, Mr. Tulsian, I wanted your thoughts on 2 PSU banks. Indian Bank, now that all the analysis would be done, how to approach that stock, and also Bank of India ahead of numbers.
See, Anuj, in fact, in Indian Bank, I've said, I think on Friday also in our afternoon show, that if you really see, the asset quality has been kept worsening, or maybe mildly. I'm not saying that too much this one, but because stock prior to that in the last year in FY18 have shown really very good performance, so people kept lapping the stocks or holding it. But I don't think that the numbers were the trajectory for the last 3-4 quarters, if you go by the asset quality trend, was seen to be very comforting, and that has seen having reflected into the share price also after seeing the disappointing number on Q3. Coming on Bank of India, it's very difficult to take a call. We generally don't preempt the numbers, but taking up a call on the PSU bank side of numbers are seen to be an Herculean task. But I don't think that even there the thing should be really any kind of comfort or positive after the Q3 number seen from Bank of India.
Yeah, especially. Thank you very much, Mr. Tulsian, for breathlessly telling us about so many stocks. Take the point about stocks like Bank of India. Yeah. There is so much more coming out of the woodwork. No one expected 2 quarters ago that IL&FS would be such a big problem, and now we don't know which way Z is headed. So every time you think that the NPA bulk is over, some tail risk keeps coming in and hitting the stocks. Okay, now the Z conference call looks like has concluded, and very quickly let us apprise you of the key takeaways. Mangalam was listening in. Mangalam, what did you get?
Well, the con call is still currently underway, but some broad details, most of them are in, Lata. So the first one, the management is not at a liberty to share the debt at the group level, but as of Friday, they are in default. So those were the only numbers that we got in terms of direction towards the group debt coming in from Z. But the agreement with lenders that they've done with about 96 to 97% of the lenders, first point, it is a formal agreement to not sell shares even if the stock price falls further. Lenders will not sell shares for an agreed time which extends much beyond April 2019. So that is an important one, and this covers both lenders of Z as well as Dish TV stock. Now, loan against Z stock. Most covenants of the loan against promoter stake have been breached. On Friday's trading session, it was 0.6% of the company's equity which was invoked by the pledged shareholders. So the company's promoter stake, which stood at 41.6% ahead of Friday, now stands at 41%. So it was 60 basis points worth equity of the company which was sold by pledged shareholders. The company is not considering any buyback program, as it may hamper the strategic sale program that the company has. That brings us to the third important point, the strategic sale. They say the strategic plan is on track. However, there are a lot of questions. Why? Because one, the company said the strategic partner has asked the company to resolve its issues with the lenders. Number two, the company after Friday will now have to re-engage with all the potential buyers in terms of the strategic stake plan that they have. Bargaining power, the company says, is still in the hands of the company, given multiple suitors. But this is something that we'll have to watch out for, because the stock price has fallen. They have reassured that there is no hostile takeover situation. But again, they say that with a caveat that they're hopeful that lenders won't breach agreement and engage directly with buyers. So those are a couple of things we'll have to watch out for. And the company also said, as of Thursday, if any hostile takeover situation appears, then the open offer price as of Thursday's close would be closer to the 534 rupees per mark. Important points that the company has reached an agreement with 96 to 97% of their lenders. They will not sell shares even if the stock price falls further. They are re-engaging conversation with potential buyers, and they refuse to talk about the group level debt, but they are in default as of Friday.
All right. Thank you very much, Mangalam, for giving us the first tranche of key headlines. There isn't material different information, except that they hope that those who have pledged shares